right, good morning, everyone. My name is Erin Lacey, and today I'm going to be presenting to you guys about the application of human systems content to the office. All right, so in overview, I'm going to be going over the introduction, the film summary, application, conclusion, and references. All right, so with the introduction, I'm going to tell you a bit about my experiences and I'll discuss some applications of human systems content. So, I received my bachelor's degree here at Texas State, and I'm only a few classes away from my master's degree, studying in organizational workforce and leadership. And as a military member, I have firsthand experience working in large organizations. So, in the military, we have to operate in a constantly changing and unpredictable environment. So, this requires me to be flexible and adaptable and responsive to changes. Additionally, the military is known for its emphasis on leadership development. So, as someone with high interest and knowledge of complexity science and has spent the last few months studying and researching human systems in the workplace, I'm excited to share my thoughts with you. So, when I was considering which film or series to connect with complexity science, one show that immediately came to mind was The Office. Well, some of you might consider the show a comedy. I think that the show offers a really unique perspective on complex adaptive systems or CAS and complex responsive processes or CRP. Also, I've watched The Office too many times to count, so it was kind of easy for me to tie this into my presentation. The show portrays a variety of dynamics between the characters and the various departments in the office. The series also does a great job of highlighting the complexities and unpredictability that often exist within organizations. Personally, I find the series hilarious, but I also believe that it has a lot to teach us about the importance of collaboration, communication, and adaptability within organizations. So, in this presentation, I'm going to provide y'all a brief overview of The Office, and then I'll apply the concepts of CAS and CRP and analyze the organization and then the different dynamics of the show. And then lastly, I'll talk about my implications of my analysis. All right. So, in summary, The Office is a television sitcom in the US and it aired from 2005 to 2013. It basically follows the daily lives of employees that are working in the Dunder Mifflin Paper Company at a branch in Scranton, Pennsylvania. The show primarily focuses on the relationships and the dynamics between the employees, including the boss, his name's Michael Scott, and a salesman named Jim Halpert. Throughout the 8-year series, the employees navigate through a variety of personal and professional challenges, including politics, romantic relationships, and corporate restructuring. Um, let's see. All right. So I mentioned some of the themes throughout the show, so now I'll go into more detail about each of them. So, one of the primary sources of conflict in the show is office politics. This is portrayed many times through the power struggles between Michael and his subordinates and Michael's desire to be liked by his employees. A lot of times, this leads him to make misguided decisions that end up affecting the whole office. And at the same time, his subordinates jockey for power and influence in the company. And a lot of times, this is at the expense of their coworkers. Um, Romantic relationships also play a significant role in The Office. The show features a number of romantic storylines, including the on again, off again relationship between Jim and Pam, and a confusing and chaotic marriage of the characters Angela and Dwight. These relationships are oftentimes portrayed as messy and complicated, with characters struggling to balance their personal and professional lives. And lastly, we have corporate restructuring. This is another reoccurring theme in the show. Throughout the series, Dunder Mifflin undergoes a series of mergers and acquisitions that impact their branch. And this often leads to changes in management, layoffs, and other disruptions that affect the employees, their job security, and their morale. in the real world, studies have shown that these transitions regularly have a negative impact on employees' well being, their work team performance, and their organizational effectiveness. At the end of the day, the office is a complex and nuanced portrayal of life in our modern workplace, and it gets into the personal and professional challenges that many employees face every day, but it also provides that comedic perspective on the absurdity of office life. Okay, so going into the application, so the system agents in the cast of The Office are the individuals working at Dunder Mifflin. So this includes people like the regional manager Michael Scott and his assistant Dwight Schrute. I mentioned them before. This also includes the company's different departments and the teams, such as the sales team, the accounting department, human resources, and these can also act as the system agents. The interactions between all these people and their teams are what helps shape the various dynamics of the organization. Some examples of self organization in the cast are extremely evident in the informal social network amongst the employees. The workers form alliances, friendships, and rivalries based off of their values, their shared interests, their personalities, etc. Um, this creates cliques in the office as well as the emergence of new hierarchies, power structures, and different types of communication patterns. So, for example, we have Jim and Pam's romantic relationship. It evolves through the series and it affects their work productivity and relationships with other coworkers. We have emergence in the office. This occurs anytime that there's new behaviors or patterns and they're created from the interactions between the people or the agents. For example, there's a character, Craig Bratton, and he is a mysterious quality assurance guy, and he emerges as a result of his interactions with the other employees. So he'll make cryptic remarks, and he'll have evasive behavior, and that kind of creates a sense of curiosity amongst the coworkers. Or another example is the way that the office workers will come together to respond to new management decisions. For example, they rebelled against the new edition of a printer by staging a mock funeral for the old one. Um, Lastly, we have resistance to change. So, this is another common theme um, in organizations, and in this case, the series. Um, in his writings, there's a renowned author, his name's Seth Alcorn. He talks about how human nature is thought to influence both the individuals and the group, as well as the values and the beliefs. So I could use Dwight's resistance to using new technology as an example because although it might make his work easier, he values tradition and somewhat fears the unknown of technology. All right, a couple more applications. So, some examples of CRPs include a lot of the informal conversations and interactions between the employees. The conversations aren't planned or controlled, but they still shape the emergent behavior of the system. So, for example, a storyline that occurs, or I'm sorry, that reoccurs throughout the seasons in is the Dundee Awards. The Dundies, it's an annual event where Michael Scott hands out awards to the employees for either their specific achievements or just quirks that they have. And this event reveals a bunch of complex responsive process dynamics that are in the office. So, one positive example is by recognizing each other's achievements, the employees feel more connected and invested in the office culture. There are also numerous examples of organizational knowledge that's shared between the employees. So they share everything from office procedures, the company's history, and customer preferences. So, for example, Jim and Pam like to share insights about certain clients with each other, like their hobbies or their favorite sports teams, so they can have a better relationship with their client. Um, Conflicting restraints. So, some examples of conflicting restraints in the CRP is there's a ton of examples that impact the characters and their behaviors with each other. So, for example, there's a conflict between personal and professional relationships, autonomy versus collaboration, or cooperation versus competition. So, an easy example of cooperation versus competition, for example, is the employees trying to outdo each other in sales or productivity and the links that they'll go to win each month. All right, so yeah, to kind of pull everything together, the change process is a central theme in The Office, and the characters really have to adapt to a series of changes in their workplace. Like I said, corporate restructuring, management turnover, and technical innovation. So, some factors that'll facilitate the change process um, are leadership, trust, and communication, while if they resist to the change, you're going to have a lack of trust, poor communication, and that's going to inhibit the change process. So, some characters exemplify these characteristics a little bit better than others. And the biggest takeaway from this series is that the change process is extremely complex and multifaceted. So, this scene that I'm about to show y'all, it just puts into perspective the dynamics of Michael Scott, the boss, and everyone in the office. And it also kind of shows how the boss is essential to this branch because of his personality and because he lets things slide. So, although their branch looks dysfunctional and kind of is, they still produce good numbers most of the time. It also ties in some of the things that we learned in class about cult values, ethics, and leadership.
Have you ever wondered what this place would be like if I was fired? No, 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 no! I didn't ask for a show of hands! Damn it! If I was fired and corporate brought in new management, anyone could come in to replace me. It could be some ogre who hates minorities. Oh, no, no, I don't like Oscar. He is far too Hispanic. Or some cold guy, some weird guy who doesn't want us to be a family. Just do your work, have private lives, and go home. I like that guy. Maybe it is some guy who knows that we don't actually need 3 accountants. Or somebody who doesn't dispense vacation time for 20-day African safaris. Phyllis? How about this? Maybe it's somebody who doesn't like the fact that a couple is romantically involved in the workplace and decides to transfer those people to other branches. Ever think about that? Well, maybe next time you should bite your tongue before you say something mean about me behind my back while I am hiding in the bathroom pretending to be pooping.
All right.
Have you ever wondered?
Okay, so in conclusion, The Office provides a rich source of material for CAS and CRP and the challenges of organizational change. It's clearly shown in the daily interactions and the relationships amongst the characters, and it does a good job highlighting the complex and conflicting constraints that shape their organization. There's also endless examples of how the characters share knowledge, navigate the office politics, and build personal and professional relationships with one another. Um, Lastly, the show also has a ton of examples of how the change process can be facilitated or inhibited by the variety of factors like leadership, trust, and communication. And then here's just a cute photo of the cast when the series started in 2005 and ended in 2013. From a personal perspective, I found The Office to be entertaining and thought provoking. While I mean, the situations in the show are obviously a bit exaggerated for comedic effect, but I still think this series accurately portrays many of the dynamics and challenges that exist in the real world organizations. Overall, I'd recommend The Office to anyone who wants to laugh or anyone that's interested in exploring the complexities of organizational life and the dynamics of interpersonal relationships in the workplace. All right. And here are my references. And just to go back over everything, I talked to you about the introduction, the film summary, some applications, and the conclusion. This concludes my briefing. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.